So thanks for coming, everyone. Joining online as well. I want to talk about why Azure gets expensive. I'm going to show you 5 common patterns that I've seen in Azure. That I know there are lots of patterns that cause your Azure to get expensive. But today I'm going to show the 5 that are most common, and then I'm going to show you what you can actually do about it. What tool by introducing the tools that you already have in your Azure. It's free and you can just use it. My name is Max. I'm cloud engineer as Max at NCBA. So been working in enterprise Azure for quite a while now. Landing zones, ISC, security, and I've built most of the mistakes I'm about to show you today. So I've done all of these mistakes, and I'm trying to be more on the practical side instead of just showing you some Microsoft Docs or FinOps theories. So today's 3 parts: where the money goes, and then I'll show you what you can actually do about it. Again, with the tools that's already in Azure, and then I'll give you a takeaway list, practical takeaway list that you can start to act on tomorrow. The real problem, so as I said, I'm gonna start with the story actually. I was sitting in a room with a project manager and a finance dude. The Azure bill had gone up about 35%, I assume. No big project, no new product launch, nothing, no migration, nothing new, just steady, slow climb that nobody had noticed that big until it landed just into that spreadsheet. And the finance dude asked me, who did this? And I was like, well, it wasn't one big thing. It wasn't one massive blunder. It was hundreds of completely logical engineering decisions made over 18 months, like dev environment left on during the weekend crunch that lasted a year. A VM upscaled during a P1 incident and still sitting at the same size today. Diagnostic settings flipped to where it was during a debugging session, and no one had really got to roll it back. So yeah, this is what we're talking about today, not FinOps theories or as I said, Microsoft Docs, just cost as an engineering quality attribute. Just the same way as we talk about reliability, performance, or even security, we talk about cost, because if cost is failed, platform is failing. If any of these failed or ignored, the platform is failing. An architecture that costs twice that what it should, it actually is not a cost problem, it's an engineering problem that hasn't been solved yet. So yeah, this is what we're talking about today. And I'm not going to show you how you should stop prioritizing features in your Azure environment. I'm just trying to show you how you can automate enough of this so it stops being a trade-off. Where the money goes. Before I get started, I'm gonna be upfront about something. As I said, I built all of these mistakes by myself that I'm about to show you. I was the guy who created that D8S V3 VM just to be safe, and never got back to resize. I was the guy who created the private endpoints felt good about it, and then forgot to update the connection string, and the app was kept hitting the public endpoint and egress traffic and all. So, and these happened not because someone was careless. It happened because we were all encouraged, as I said, to ship features. A performance incident can be carry a defining moment, right? But slight rise in your Azure bit is just a line in the spreadsheet that finance dude will mention it during your next quarterly review. So yeah, we're going through these patterns, and I'm pretty sure you'll recognize all of them. First one, oversized compute. Going back to that VM story, D8S V3 provisioned during crunch time. Requirements weren't fully understood, and no one wants to be an engineer whose VM runs out of memory. So you go bigger and you move on. And I've done it. I'm pretty sure you've all done it as well. So, but here's the uncomfortable truth about compute, enterprise compute, is that with most web applications, we're idle about 80% of the time. So we provision for the 1% of the year that's genuinely busy and pay for it the other 99%. So the real fix here is that not just to resize a VM. The real fix is the organizational work, is building a platform where resizing a VM is just a low risk, low friction operation, where you can apply your Azure recommendations without raising a change request. And I'm telling you, most environments aren't there yet. By the way, in the meantime, talking about Azure Advisor, as you see, Azure Advisor gives you really good recommendations on especially compute recommendations, where Azure tells you to, for example, move from D series to B series. They're really good. They're pretty low risk and immediate saving, so trust them. Culprit number 2, non-prod that never sleeps. Dev, test, UAT, they're all running 24/7. And that's not because we don't know about auto shutdown, right? We all know about auto shutdown. It's because that 7:30 p.m. Teams message from a vendor working in a different time zone saying that the environment is down. So you leave the lights on to avoid that conversation. But that's a rational decision. It's the 65% of your compute bill saving is just sitting there. So that means that if you turn off your non-prod environment during weekend and after hours, you save 65% on your non-prod compute. That's a good number. So you see that technical fix is trivial. The real fix is, again, is organizational fix. And the only way that I've seen it actually stick is by making off the default and on the exception. It's just how the platform works, and it's not a conversation anymore on any Friday afternoon. It's just platform works like this. So not the other way around, that you make on the default and off the exception. So you don't need to justify that you want to turn off your dev VM overnight. Culprit number 3 is the Log Analytics Pro. And this is my favorite one because it's the most counterintuitive. The instinct in most engineering teams is to enable everything, log everything. Because you might need it for like an audit, a compliance review, an incident investigation. So the instinct isn't wrong at all. The issue here is that log everything isn't a strategy. It's the easiest thing you can do, and it's just a bill waiting to happen. So, but here's the thing that I wish someone had told me earlier. Security logs, the ones feeding Sentinel, the ones driving alerts or supporting incidents, they all belong into the analytics logs. But for example, diagnostic logs like VM counter performance, like HTTP app logs, storage metrics, they don't probably need to go to the analytics logs. So there is a good reason that Microsoft has created this pricing ladder, because you can understand how common this problem is. Analytics logs has a premium pricing of $3 per GB. So you don't want to send all of your logs there. You want to keep it only for security and operational data where you query them regularly. But for diagnostics logs, like debugging logs, they should go to basic logs at the 1/5 of the price. It only has limited retention, but still queryable. For verbose traces, health events, or any low-value data, but high volume, they should go to the auxiliary logs at 1/45 of the price. And the interesting thing is that you can still query them for 30 days. It has 30 interactive query plus full KQL. And the ones that you think you want to keep it, but you never query it, like archive data or audit data, just send them to a storage account, keep them in a storage account at a fraction of the price. So for an 80 GB ingestion data, if you add it all through analytics logs, it's going to be $260 per day. But if you add it correctly through the pricing ladder, it's going to be $48 per day. So that's a huge amount of saving just by analyzing the logs and sending them to the correct tier. Next culprit is storage. Storage, as we know, I think it's the junk drawer of Azure. It's just because it's cheap, we stop managing it. I've done it too. I've created a storage account, pointed at diagnostic settings at it, and forgotten about it for 18 months. So the issue here is that accumulation. And accumulation precisely happens because of every individual cost in a storage account feels negligible. The classic examples here are orphan snapshots. So you delete the VM, job done. The managed disk are still sitting there. The 5 snapshots probably you took before during the previous deployments are still sitting there and ticking away on your Azure bill every single month. So yeah, then the next problem here is the tier problem. So you have hot tier with cold data in it. In most Azure environments that I've seen, most storage accounts are sitting at the hot tier, regardless of when it was last accessed. There's no lifecycle policy on it because it felt like that didn't matter, I think, but it matters. It costs double the price of the cool tier. And then you have diagnostic logs, as we mentioned, sending to a storage account, but you don't set up any retention policy. It's just pure accumulation. It's just billed for you every month. Then we have GRS versus LRS. Geo-redundant at the double cost of local redundant storage. For non-prod data, ephemeral data, or any data that gets replicated at the application level, we're paying double for something that we'll certainly never use. So if you genuinely need to use geo redundancy in storage, you can consider object replication. So GRS is kind of a black box. We're paying double and we trust that it's working. But object replication is explicit. You define what it gets replicated and where it goes, and you just pay for what gets replicated. So yeah, that's it. Here we also have networking ingress culprit, and this is very interesting because it surprises people the most, and it's almost always an architectural leak. As I said, I've created private link, documented it, and felt good about the architecture. But then after 6 months looking at the Azure build, something's not right. And that turns out the connection string wasn't got updated. And it was hitting the public endpoint and charges egress traffic every month. So this is just one pattern of the egress traffic that a misconfiguration caused it. So as you see, we actually misconfigured a connection string, and as a bonus, we actually bypassed the security that we configured with that private endpoint. So it's, you see, cost and security are two sides of the same coin here. One misconfigured was doing two kind of damages here, and then you have cross-region traffic. So you have your app in Australia East, database in Australia Southeast. Every queries crosses the region and costs you. Small per transaction, but at scale, it's gonna be a line in that spreadsheet that no one can explain. And then we have AKS pulling from routing ACR. That's where you move from your Docker Hub to ACR. That's really good. Nodes are in Southeast, ACR in East. Still, money is leaving. So the solve here is that you need to geo-replicate your ACR. Keep a replica in a region where you're running your workloads, and AKS just pulls from the closest region. Traffic stays local, no regress traffic, and that cross-region traffic cost just disappears. I'm gonna talk about the visibility here because I was going to talk about the visibility after I've showed you the 5 patterns, but for this one, because network egress is very, very dodgy. It's very hard to find what app is causing that network egress. It's really hard to find. So I'm going to tell you how you can find it actually. For the private endpoint, you go to your cost analysis on the meter category, bandwidth. You look for your app. If your app that you think that you've set it up privately and the number isn't $0, that's causing an issue. So your bandwidth cost on your private app should be 0. And that's the place where you can look at it. And for cross-region traffics, if your setup is cross-region, the pay is there. You can't do anything about it. You need to pay for the cross-region queries, right? But we want to find those anomalies, the ones that we can't identify. So the solution here is just to set up a budget alerts on your on your bandwidth. So you set a budget alert on your bandwidth, and the threshold of the budget is just maybe 2 or 3 months. Look at your 2 or 3 months cost of your cross region traffic or bandwidth, and set budget for that. And then you'll get email if it goes up or if you see any anomalies. Now, what we can actually do. So I'm going to show you the tools that you already have in your Azure. No new license needed. They're free. They're already there. Just the reason that maybe it's not effective or people don't use it is because it's not part of how the team operates. So we start here, real visibility. This is so easy, but it's very important. Most people I see, they go to cost analysis and they open the cost analysis with the total by service. The total by service probably showing you nothing actionable. You select total by service, see that virtual machine sitting in the top line, and just close it because it doesn't tell you anything. All you need to do is change your scope, go to subscription level, and group it by resource. Once you group it by resource, sort it by top 20, I'm pretty sure if you run this in an environment that you haven't touched before, you find at least 2 or 3 resources that even the team that don't know about. There's always a VM running that no one knew about it. There's always unattached public IPs, unattached management disks that's costing you and no one knew about it. And as for each line, just ask a question that, do I know this resource and do I know why it's costing that much? The next thing I do is I go to the cost trend over the 6 months and look for creeps. I look for creeps, not spikes. Spikes are usually known incidents, but creeps are that accumulated cost that I was talking about. If you see a line going up 1 month on month without you being able to correspond that to an increase in your workload in your environment, there's something going on checking your environment. So you probably need to check that. And here's our 2 workbooks that I want to show you. And I'm pretty sure most engineers haven't seen that before or haven't touched it before. It's in your Azure environment. On the monitor, you see that workbooks. They are free. These specific 2, you need to download them and deploy them to your environment, but there are also pre-built-in workbooks in Azure as well. So the first one is cost optimization workbook. Cost optimization workbook is a free workbook, part of the Microsoft open source FinOps toolkit. I'll provide the link after this session. You go and download it from there. It's pretty actively maintained. It's very good workbook that shows you idle VMs, your unattached disk, your unused public IPs, empty load balancers, the used AKS node pools. So anything unused. You can also get information about your utilization of your reserved instances, how much you've utilized them, your Azure hybrid benefits. What it does is just analyze your usage pattern over a rolling period and gives you that data. And the other one is Orphan Resources Workbook. This is a community workbook, but it's really well maintained and actively get updated, and it's widely being used. So again, you download it from GitHub, deploy it. It goes deeper into the resource level, and it shows you this grid that you see the resource types, scans, and the $sign. If there is a $sign there, that means that resource is costing you. So you have to check them. Just click in the box on the box and check the resources there. If you don't know them, you have to do something about it because it's costing you. And this is how it looks like. This is the cost optimization. So you see the rate optimization, user optimization, and on the manage disk, like all of these idle disks. You just need to check them. If not needed, go to the disk and remove them. And then we have the orphan resources. As I said, you get this grid. You click on the box, and it shows you any kind of resource in Azure, categorized by. And you can, with this orphan resource, you can delete them directly from the workload as well. You don't need to go to the resource every time. The next one is Azure Advisor. Azure Advisor, the mistake I've seen people made using Azure Advisor is that they go to the Azure Advisor recommendations, feel a bit vaguely guilty about it, and close. They do nothing about it. But then actually the way that I see it really works in a team is as a standing agenda item, not a weekly meeting. That's too much overhead, but at least a monthly review where someone in your team is responsible for pulling those dollars out of Azure Advisor and just triage them. You don't need to decide on them or action on them. Just triage them, just actively monitor them. Just say yes, no, or not yet, because I'm saying triage them because maybe some of those resources are not appropriate for your context. So it's best just to triage them, actively monitoring them. And again, going back to the right sizing, trust those right sizing recommendations from Azure Advisor. They're really good, especially the compute recommendations, where Azure tells you go from DCs to BCs. They're really good and low risk. And the Azure Advisor recommendation that I really prioritize above anything else is reservations. Reservations are pure money because it analyzes your data utilization and tells you exactly what resources you should be buying reservations for. But here's the critical point, that you need to right size first, then buy the reservation. I've seen people make this mistake again, that they buy a reservation on a wrong SKU and they celebrate the win. It is a win actually, but not as big a win as it could have been. Right? They could have saved double by right sizing first and then committing to the reservations. The next one is tagging. And I'm going to say something controversial yet. I think tagging is not a governance issue. I think tagging is an engineering issue. And the only way to fix it is in your IC. The reason I'm saying is in your IC because if you say that in your IC, deployment gets failed. The pattern that I see tagging every conversation I've had actually, anyone who works in an Azure environment, it's like it's that platform team sends around a policy document about tagging. You read it, it makes sense, you agree with it, and you apply it on about 60% of your resources manually. Manual gets skipped always, because especially on when you are under delivery pressure, it gets skipped. But if you enforce it at your ISC module, the deployment gets failed until the variables gets defined in the ISC. There are 3 tags that you need for your cost allocation in any Azure environment: environment, owner, and cost center. You have these 3 tags. You can answer to the most important questions of the cost allocations. Which environment is the most expensive? Who do I call when this spikes? And which project do I attribute this cost to? I'll put here a bicep template for tagging module. So you see there is no default value. don't put a default value on your IC. Just tags, because if you put a default value, people use it, and your tagging is still inconsistent. So just tags and deployment gets bad. Budget and alerts. Most Azure environments has either no budget sets or a budget set that sends an email to a DL that no one reads it. So I think the only way that it works is to first set a realistic threshold for your budget, not your last year number, not your wish, just an actual spend plus a meaningful buffer. That's your budget. Set your budget realistically, and then set up an alert at 80% to somewhere that actually human reads it, a Teams channel, or even better, an ITSM ticket. And this is critical. At 100%, an action group that triggers something, that do something, at least create an incident ticket, or triggers an automation runbook that flag that resource or tag that resource for review. So in this way, your budget areas gets reviewed because you have it in your ITSM. It gets actioned, it gets triaged, assigned, action, get closed. So this is the way that actually you can monitor your budget in Azure Budget. And I'm going to call it dev and test subscriptions, where budget areas matter most and are set up least. Production is always getting the most attention, but dev and test environments are a place that mess builds up. Auto shutdown and reservation. I'm going to keep this short because we've already discussed about it. Auto shutdown. Non-prod environment shouldn't actually have any compute that's running 24/7. That's not the default. Any compute in your non-prod environment is off after hours and weekend and on during the business hours. And this is how the platform works. We talked about. And if you use Dev Center, you can force it at the platform level. So devs can really override your configurations. For AKS non-prod, how we can match this with VMs, you can scale your notebooks down to 0 overnight. That means that if your cluster are sitting there idle for 12 hours, and if you scale it down to 0, that's a significant amount of savings. It just needs a bit of more thought about the startup time, but it's not a big thing. And complaints last 2 weeks. After that, no one even remember that they were different. Reservations and savings plans. Again, first right size it. Anyone knows that with reservations you can save up to 72% over pay as you go. But remember, right size first, then commit to the right SKU. You can exchange it obviously, but that's friction. I think it's not a conversation that you want to have. Once you buy a reservation on a SKU, you don't want to have a conversation or bought it wrong or want to change it. So buy it, it's right size first, and then reservation. So keep in mind that for stable workloads, for anything that's expected, reservations. Anything flexible, go for savings plans. So this is the order: right size, and then reservation, and then savings plans, because savings plans are flexible. And if you're working in a regulated environment, just plan to buy your reservations ahead of the financial year, because if it needs to go through the procurement approval and these kind of things, it takes time. So just plan it ahead of time, not at the end of a quarter. three policy guidelines. I'm not going actually to tell you or to lecture about policies here, but there are three policies that I want to mention that has the highest cost impact but lowest effort. Deny premium storage SKUs in non-pro. There is never ever a legitimate reason for a dev environment to have a premium SSD in it. So deny that. That's very low effort, very low risk. Just one policy assignment saves you lots of money. Require tags before resource creation. Deny. We already enforce it at the ISC module, and now we enforce it here at the Azure module for any hiccups. So you don't want any resource without those three tags. And unattached disks and public IPs, keep it at audit, but make an action. Because if you deny it, you're risking, because some of the disks, unattached disks, are sitting there for a purpose. We don't want to remove all of our attached disks, unattached disks, but we want to watch out for them. So audit them and make an action that if that audit sends a report, it should create a ITSM ticket for that. So someone actually human go there and review that unattached disks or public IP. And that will save you lots of money. Take it back tomorrow. So I'm gonna give you a short list of practical stuff that you can take back from this session. I'm not giving you like a long takeable list that no one can action on it, but just fewer things on specific orders that it actually makes sense for you to deploy it in your environment. So tomorrow, it just takes 30 minutes. Go to that cost visibility. Sort it by, as I said, by resource, not service. And look at your top 20 resources. Write down what surprises you. Ask the question that, do I know this resource? Do I know why it's costing that much? But don't action. Just list them. And this week, go and download those two workbooks that I showed you, the offline resources and optimization workbooks. Check your resources in your Azure environment. It takes about 10 minutes to get deployed, 5 minutes to analyze your Azure environment, but tells you lots of things. So you go to monitor workbooks. Everything's there. Non-prod auto shutdown. Just go and check your non-prod environment. You should have auto shutdown on your computes. If it's not there, turn them on. And if you have a medium size non-prod environment, I'm pretty sure you'd save at least $300, $2,000 per month by these findings. And then this month, log analytics ingestion review. I'll show you a query for log analytics. Actually, that query tells you what resources is ingesting the most in your log analytics. So you can identify that resource and see how much is ingesting. And go to that pricing ladder, see if it needs to go to analytics tier or not. Just review it. Advisor triage as a team. We talked about it. This Azure Advisor recommendation should go to your team as a standalone agenda item. Reservation utilization. Go to your Azure in your reservations, check your utilizations. If it's under 80%, you need to have a conversation before you're buying it. This is more structural one that we talked about, like tags in ISC module. Check your modules. There shouldn't be any default for your tags. If it is, remove them. Deployment should get failed without those three taggings. Wire the budgets to teams or ITSM, as we talked about, and monthly cost review should be added to your team as a agenda item. And yeah, the hardest part in cost optimization, as you see, isn't really technical, because you see dollar is there, the tool is there, it's free, and technical fixes are pretty straightforward. I think the only thing, the hardest thing that fixes is having a person taking care of your Azure build, not a tool, not a fancy tool, not a process, just a person taking care of that. It doesn't matter who is that person. But it should be in your engineering team who can act. But it doesn't matter who. It can be a developer who cares about this stuff. It can be a cloud engineer, but just someone who owns the tagging, who can escalate your budget areas, who can act, who actually can have authority to act. So yeah, there's a good chance that person is sitting here in this room, or there's a good chance that you can influence someone in your organization, so that person can be that person to take care of your Azure build. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. And FDR, any children? Yeah, no worries. Any questions for Max? Yeah.
Thank you, Max. That was absolutely great. Just a clarifying question, roughly 3 or 4 slides back on auto shutdown. Just got it as, yeah. Under auto shutdown and reservations, I believe. Yeah. I'm just reading it backwards in my head, off by default, on by exception. But we wanted to auto shut down, right?
Oh, yeah. You want it to auto shut down. What I mean by off by default, on by exception, I mean that you need to make that how the platform works. So you auto shut down your VMs during after hours and weekends, and it's only during business hours. And this is how the platform works. So if that Teams message you receive at 7:30 p.m., that guy saying environment is down, this is how the environment works. But if an engineer really think that exception is needed, they can raise one and they get it, right? But the rest get the cheaper infrastructure.
Perfect. I understand it now that it's VMs are off by default outside of business hours. Yes. It's rated as auto shut down. The feature is off by default, and no, thank you.
And this is the logs. I'll send this as well after the meeting. And these are the logs anyway, if you want. And these are logs that shows you. You run them in your log analytics and it shows you how much ingested dollar has been in your log analytics, how much your log analytics being ingested, what's the most expensive one, is really needed to be there or not.
Or from me, like where in the settings can you actually point the various logs into the various types of logs? Like
I'll show you after. I'll show you after.
Cool. Those who are online, I'm not sure if you can actually access the chat, but does any of you have any questions? I think you'll have to speak up because I think the chat is not working. Anyone online who's got a question? No.
Hi, Max. Nias here. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So just one question. Is Azure Monitor part of this cost management, or is it a separate entity?
Is that Azure Monitor part of cost management?
Azure Monitor part of cost management. It could be, it can be part of cost management. Cost management is different. If you're talking about Azure cost management, is different resource in Azure. But when I'm talking about Azure Monitor, is that those workbooks. So those workbooks are accessible through Azure Monitor.
So you can run like
you can
like a query every week, every month.
When you go there, it's just there. So it uses Azure Resource Graph. So you don't need any dashboard, any Power BI, any new tooling. It's just a workbook sitting there. I'll show you here. I have it, I think, on my screen. So you see, it's in your Azure Monitor. There's something here called workbooks. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that anyone has didn't open it. And this is the FinOps workbooks optimization. It's pretty empty here because I'm using my personal one, but just to showing you how it looks like. This is the orphan resources. Like, for example, I have 2 private endpoints sitting there and it's costing me. The reason that private endpoints are sitting there because there's no virtual network links to them. So there's no point of having them without any virtual network links. That's why it's pointing to them and it's costing. So yeah, it's just sitting on the Azure Monitor.
Yeah, thanks. Also for the LRS, it's only recommended for non-prod applications, right?
No, you can. And any kind of logs, you need to route it correctly through repricing tiers.
And I'm asking about LRS.
LRS and GRS for storage.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter because for your non-prod, you probably don't need GRS. But for your production, I advise that before you use GRS, consider object replication. That's much cheaper, and you know what gets replicated. You don't want to replicate anything in your storage account. You might not need it.
Or you can go like
it,
folder level, container level as well.
Yeah.
Because not everything may not be
Exactly
replicated.
Yeah, exactly.
If you have a development team who is located in a remote location or a different region, which is in that case, GRS non-prod environment recommended or still LRS is enough?
If your dev team is in a different region.
Yeah.
So if your dev environment, you mean, Nias?
Yes.
I think it doesn't matter, right? Because regardless of what region, it's a dev environment, it's a non-prod.
Yeah.
So technically you don't care about it as much as you care about prod.
Yeah, it doesn't matter really.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
And is LRS still, so if you have something in, say, Sydney, LRS is like, between Sydney and Melbourne, it replicates, right?
LRS.
Oh, no, so LRS is like,
It's
Sydney,
globally redundant.
yeah, so within the region itself.
Within the region.
Yeah. And I guess that's where the SLAs come in, like, because most of the services actually got a pretty high level of SLAs already built in.
Yeah.
Like I think storage account is already like 99.99.
Exactly.
So is that like,
So
is
it's
that
pretty safe to use it for your dev environment, right?
Yeah.
Well, don't need it for your even prod. I don't think that you need GRS for most of your storage accounts. So just review them. Even hot tier and cold tier, just go and review them. If your storage accounts are sitting at the hot tier, at least set a life cycle policy on them. Or if no one has accessed it, I don't know, last 6 months or 1 year, just move it to the cold tier because you have.
Max, I assume most of this stuff is applicable to the management group level as well.
Yes, they all are applicable to management group level. The policies are definitely. Yeah, and then the other ones, for example, you need to be careful if you wanted to set it up as policy, for example, like this one, GRS versus LRS, you can set it up as a policy that no one can implement the GRS storage can in your non-private bar. That's a policy automation. Done. So yeah, most of these can be applied at the platform level as well.
Your comment about having a policy where you can't use like premium storage SKUs.
Oh yeah.
So is that only for storage, or can you do it for like premium, premium compute as well?
You can do it for premium compute. Right? You can do it no VM with premium SSD.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You can do it as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more
What
thing,
else?
if I may ask.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so these are applicable only for applications already in Azure ecosystem, or can it be applied to an on-prem to Azure migration as well?
The policies or the other practical
The
steps?
cost management, basically in general at large.
What if you're migrating? She's asking whether this is applicable to existing stuff, or what if you're migrating from an on-prem to cloud?
Oh, again, it's much better even if you're migrating. So that means that you planning it ahead. So you can plan it ahead and have all of these policies and cost distribution, all of them in place before we migrate.
Because all the workbooks can still be installed.
Yeah.
The policies can still be deployed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Did that answer your question? Yes.
Yeah, yes. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. I guess, yeah, with that, we'll come to a close. Anyone online? Last chance? No, all good. So yeah, thanks, Max. That was very insightful. Like lots of tips and tricks.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.
Practical, I guess, like real world examples, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks again for sharing your experience with us. Yeah. Thanks everyone.